Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Strategic Angling. My name is Justin Waterman and I will be doing today's episode. So this past week I went up to northern Wisconsin and did a little fishing trip, filmed some content, and I wanted to kind of share with you guys what I was doing to break down the lake kind of. I don't have the fancy electronics and all that stuff on my boat, so most of what I'm doing is research prior to the trip or during the trip to kind of find key areas where I think there might be fish. I did a lot of Google Earth over, like looking at the lake from a bird's eye view and kind of seeing where there's breaks in the clean and dirty water, potentially locate laydowns, docks, all kinds of stuff that I would like to fish. But yeah, basically that's all I was doing, and it was a very successful trip for being there for just shy of 5 days, and caught a lot of good fish, a couple decent smallmouth and some really good largemouth up there, and then my first ever musky as well. So one of the key baits that I was throwing was the swim jig around laydowns and docks, the walkways to docks and stuff like that, and I was really working it extremely slow. I noticed right off the bat I was not catching fish working it quickly, and so I started to just kind of crawl it on the bottom because it was a very clean northern lake with rocky sandy bottom, so I didn't have to worry too much about keeping it above weeds or anything like that. So I was crawling the swim jig very slow over rock and gravel, and I noticed that worked, and so then I looked for more areas that were similar to that, and I picked those apart with a swim jig as well. Then the second bait that I used that worked extremely well was a very light flipping jig, and I was flipping the ends of the laydowns and the ends of the docks, and I was getting better smallmouth bites on that, and that's actually how I caught the musky, was on a 1/4 ounce flipping jig. So they do catch just about everything. Another key thing that I was looking for, so it's a chain of lakes that we were on, and so every lake was kind of its own different beast to tackle, and I tried to cover most of them, but ended up having better success on 2 of the ones, and then I had one day that was pretty bad on one of the newer lakes that I tried. But clean water was the key. If I found any water with floating vegetation or algae or whatever it was, I don't even know what it was. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. But if I found any of that, it wasn't even worth fishing that water. I couldn't figure out a pattern to catch them at all. So I stayed in clean water lakes with rock, gravel, sand, and laydowns and docks, and basically just focused on that. And luckily, flipping a jig and swimming a jig are 2 of my favorite things to do. Like, it's just easy. You just go and you cruise a section of bank, throw a swim jig, catch fish doing it. Once you get to a dock, you flip that dock, catch fish doing that, and it just set up perfectly for the time I was there.
So this is Brady, the voice behind the camera. I got some questions for Justin. You know, you hit on at the beginning. You did a few things to try to narrow down where you thought you were going to look. You know, that's something that these guys or gals watching this video can take as a tip. So you said you used what tool?
I used Google Earth, and then I looked at topographical images on Navionics.
Now with Google Earth, were you using the web version or were you using Google Earth Pro?
Google Earth Pro. Google Earth Pro will let you dial back time to different years to see, like, if it is a man-made lake that was made more recently, you can see other structure that was put into the lake. Unfortunately, this is a very old lake and it is man-made, but you cannot see anything from when they actually built the lake.
Yeah, and the other good thing about Google Earth Pro is you can dial back the time to maybe match up the month that you're going to be there to try to simulate the similar conditions. Yeah. If you're just on your phone or you're using the web-based Google Earth, you don't have the historical option you do with the free downloaded Pro version. So that's a good tip. So you scouted Google Earth to see what you could see with your eyes. Now tell us how you this is a small chain of lakes in northern Wisconsin. It's not a place you're going to find on a map chip or something like that. How did you find accurate sonar info online?
So basically I just typed in the name of the lake, the name of the chain of lakes, and then I typed in topographical map, and it popped up one for each lake that was connected to the chain. And so I was able to look at those and see which ones had deepest water, which ones had shallow water that got really deep really fast. And those are areas I would like to pick off smallmouth. And then I was looking for any humps out in the middle to see if I could locate any of those on my own, and wasn't successful doing any of that, but I'm sure earlier in the year on lakes that stay clear longer, you could probably end up finding those humps pretty easily. But I think looking at the lake before from a different perspective before you actually go to the lake can be very beneficial to your trips there.
Yeah, especially if you've got a shorter trip and you've got to make the absolute best use of your time. One thing you didn't hit on that you mentioned to me before we started filming was you took a lap around each lake you filmed. Tell us about that.
So basically I was just trying to get a view of the areas, like my actual eyes were seeing what I thought was worth fishing and what I thought was not worth fishing. And so taking a lap around the lakes, I mean they're 200, 300 acre lakes, and so it doesn't take long. You can open your motor up all the way and you can fly around and look at stuff. I was primarily looking for docks, laydowns, and rock and gravel. And so I would find a section that was very weedy and I would just cruise on past, and then I would find another spot and I would put a pin down on my Apple Maps on my iPhone, and then I would go back to that pin and I would fish that area. And I think that was very helpful instead of just putting the trolling motor down and just going.
Because you could spend a whole day just trolling up a mile of bank that you had already ruled out, or you didn't think was very good just because you're staying near there. So ending this video, I know we rolled some clips of your fish catches and over the stuff you were talking about. It sounds like the 3 takeaways for breaking down a new lake is, satellite study, topographic study, and then take a lap or only really focus on the areas that you think would have fish, and if that doesn't work out, maybe go back and try some of those areas that you didn't think would be great areas to try. And if you not specific to your trip that you just took, but if you just had one bait to throw around here in the Midwest to break down a new body of water, you got one rod, one reel, one bait, what are you going to throw?
I'm going to be throwing a 1/4 ounce swim jig, probably in black and blue, any time of the year, any water clarity. It's going to be a black and blue 1/4 ounce swim jig on a Dobbins 734 with a Shimano SLX and probably 30-pound braid.
Okay. Any other thoughts you want to leave us with?
That's it. That's all I got.
So thank you, Justin, for sharing some clips and your time on your vacation. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.